Hi, good morning and welcome to the second in our series of webinars. This time we're discussing driving sustainability in packaging and point of sale display. Obviously, this is a huge subject. We are going to try and keep it to 30 minutes, so forgive us if we do run over a little bit. I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. So I'm Sarah, I'm going to be your host for the webinar, and I'd like to introduce Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, hi, I'm Andrea. I've been with the Weedon Group for about 15 years now and in point of sale and display for about 20. I'm very interested in this subject. It's more and more becoming important, so really interested to talk about this today.
Fantastic, thank you. And Ed. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, hi everyone, morning. Ed Perry, I'm the Group Creative and Innovation Manager at Weedon Group, and I oversee the I2I Europe team, which is all of the design and the artwork teams. And yeah, I've got almost 20 years next year experience in the industry.
Wow, yeah, a lot of experience on the webinar today then. On that note, we do actually have a Q&A session. We'll be going through it at the end of the webinar, but if you see anything on screen or if you've got any questions as the webinar is going through, please just send us a question and we will get to answer it. If we are running a bit short on time and we don't get to answer all the questions, we will drop you an email with an answer and we'll get that sorted for you. So, right, if we make a start, one further housekeeping, just piece of information. We have tried to tailor the presentation so you don't miss any information on the right-hand side where we are, but you can grab us at the top and move us around. So if there's anything you want to see,
that way.
Yeah, you can do that. So, right, Andrea, if I give this one to you to start with, sustainability. Yeah. What's happening in the marketplace around this topic at the moment?
Quite a lot. So sustainability was a huge talking point before COVID anyway, and obviously very much an increasing part of consumers' awareness. And of course, it's always been part of our DNA as a business in the paper industry, because that's just what we do. But since then, there's been a lot of coverage in the news about material shortages. And I think it's really focused people to be thinking about what they use and what they waste. Fortunately, here at Weedon, we do make a lot of our own material, a lot of our own board grades, so we're not feeling the full impact that some of our colleagues are. But it's a massive talking point at the moment that there really is a shortage of paper and cardboard out there in the marketplace. What's causing this? It's a bit of a perfect storm, really. Partly it's the impacts of Brexit and haulage. That's just slowing down the process generally. But in the main, there's been such a drive to e-coms. Obviously, we're all changing the way we buy. We're all sat at home buying things. We're all ordering in when we might have popped to the shops. What impact does that have? If you just look at the example on screen there, if I pop into Sainsbury's and buy a bottle of wine, that's coming a 6-pack from, say, Argentina. So that's one box shipping 6 bottles of wine to the store. I pick up one bottle. Obviously that must be a weekday, I'll be picking up more. I put it in my carrier bag, take it home with me, and away we go. If I was to order that online, they have to break out that 6-pack, then have to put that single bottle of wine in a secondary package, sorry. There'll be void fill in there so it can transit to me safely, and then potentially a secondary transit case. So that one bottle of wine, the packaging required, or the cardboard or material required to get that to me, is probably times by 6 if I buy it online. So if you scale that up by all the things we're now sort of buying, everyone's buying more and more online. If you think of the scale of that, it's phenomenal. What that's coupled with is that because we're at home, because we're not going to the recycling centres, or we're not maybe going to the Tesco recycling, there's a massive shortage of paper coming back in, or cardboard coming back into the system, to that circular economy. So what we've got is massive outs, massive increased demand, a lot less coming back in because it's all in our garages, because we think, well, we'll do that when it's all over. So that is causing basically the shortage. I mean, on e-commerce, we were talking about this the other day, wasn't there some stats from when we first started looking at e-commerce packaging a few years ago?
So within the structural design team, we've had a steady incline as e-commerce has grown over the last several years in terms of inquiries. But last year, so 2020 compared to 2019, we had an uplift of 155% of inquiries on e-commerce.
Wow.
And it literally just highlights that point of all of these businesses that have been selling directly, supplying into retailers, they've not had to even consider how to get their products to customers, with stores being shut and, you know, certain industries being affected more than others. And all of a sudden, this has become one of the biggest things for companies to now figure out. How do I get my product direct to a customer that they can buy online through a lot of the online retailers and get my product there? And it just shows that lift. I mean, we've never had that as a spike. So yeah, it's been huge impact for just our design team.
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose what that means is we're using more, but we've all got a bigger stake than ever in reducing waste, reducing the impact on the environment from that waste. You know, whilst on the other hand, we're all, and I include myself in this, we're all guilty, if you like, of buying more and more stuff online. So we're all consuming more, but we're all obviously more aware of the impact that that's having. Yeah. I think if you'd spoke to me about this 2 years ago, from a point of sale perspective, I would, you know, someone said, what's the biggest challenge? I would have said, getting that promotion away with the retailer. If you were to ask me now, I'd be thinking within the timeframes and the lead times we have, the biggest challenge for a lot of people will be getting the material for that display, literally. Yeah. So I think with that in mind, we need to be making some real smart choices about how we create displays and packaging and what waste we're doing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good points there, actually. Who do you think is driving this change? Andrew, if you could take this one, please.
Yeah, it's everyone. So you can see there on the slide, it really is everyone involved in the chain. So for as a manufacturer, as I say, it's always been part of our DNA anyway, but it's becoming more and more something that we're focused on, how we can support our customers with making those changes. So then the brands have got targets of their own. They're being pushed by the retailer. So the retailer has government targets imposed on them that they're working towards. They're pushing that onto the brands. The brands is pushing that onto the consumer. So the consumer is also pushing back on the brand. So it's that real sort of circle that we're all parts of the chain working together. And although the consumer is really aware, they're also part of the problem because their behaviours have changed due to circumstances. Again, as an industry, as a manufacturer, and as Weeding Group, this is very much part of who we are and part of our DNA to be driving that change anyway. But it's certainly just become so focused. But overall, I say everyone, the retailer, the manufacturer, the brands and the consumer, they're all pushing to get this sustainable solution. You know, it's just become the focus of everybody, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I assume as well as lockdown opens up and more stores are open as we're driving. Sorry? Fingers crossed. Yeah. As we're driving footfall back through bricks and mortar retailers, the use of POS is going to help this situation because we're reducing a lot of the e-commerce packaging. You're obviously using a lot less board to make a POS unit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you've got 90 bottles of wine on one display, that's a lot less cardboard than 90 bottles of wine being sent through e-commerce. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Ed, have you got any thoughts on this as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think it's everybody as individuals within all of those areas that make the impact, because it is it is people themselves that drive it, regardless of where they work or their background. So I think, you know, if I think about this from myself, I've always been proud to work and design in a material that is, environmentally friendly, that has a lower carbon footprint than, say, plastics do. So I think for me, it's, you know, we're always keen to try and work in new ways and develop new ideas to try and push sustainability within our business. But I just think it comes back to that point where Andrea, you know, is covered on this slide. It kind of, everybody has an impact, but it's all down to individuals within those businesses and within those sectors that make the difference, because it's people that drive it. I mean, for us in terms of design and within the, you know, stuff around the artwork side, obviously the government set targets for the retailers to work to, and it's through the government and retailers that I think change can be driven at pace. You know, that they are the people that can really push targets onto businesses, and obviously, you know, lead us from a design perspective in terms of using certain types of materials, you know, and kind of thinking about sustainability as we go through our processes. I mean, Asda have actually got a sustainable conference later this month that I'll be attending virtually, of course. But I'm really looking forward to that because, you know, we get to, from our perspective, look at how we can help them achieve their goal of getting to carbon neutral packaging, which I know is on the agenda for a lot of big businesses and retailers out there. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pace that can be driven by it, but fundamentally it's down to everybody to start shouting up about it and making it something within their own business as a talking point.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the conference, actually, Ed. That's good. And what would you say our industry is doing to help?
So obviously, again, as Ed was saying, proud to be working in an industry that's sustainable. I was also proud that during COVID, our industry was recognised as being an essential industry. So we supported production of food, medical equipment, hygiene products, getting all those things out to consumers, keeping the nation fed, really, as dramatic as it sounds. So to play a part in that is amazing. Another step that the industry took was to ensure that we had enough supplies of recycled materials to ensure that our sustainable packaging manufacturing operations could continue. So even at the start of the pandemic, the industry recognised that we needed to make sure we had enough of sustainable materials so we could carry on with that sort of progress in sustainability. And I think probably the key initiative is that the industry is pushing to utilise existing waste collection networks to collect waste paper. Waste paper is something that's not as standard collected. Certainly where I live, it's not collected separately. At your traditional recycling centres, waste paper isn't pulled out separately from cardboard. So the industry is really pushing to get some recycling schemes in place so we can have, as I touched on earlier, that circular economy. Long term, there's research into new papers. I've seen articles on mushroom paper, I've seen articles on grass paper. Whilst it's great that we're investigating these new materials, and we definitely need to try forward with that, at the moment it's just not scalable for the amount that we need. So what we need to do is invest in the recycling to make sure that we're keeping that sustainable circle going, keeping that paper flowing. So I would say that's sort of the main thing that the industry is doing. And regardless of COVID or, you know, what the world looks like on the other side, sustainability, the environment, it's absolutely the forefront of the corrugated industry. Always was, always will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, Andrew, you mentioned earlier that sustainability is in our DNA.
Yeah.
What are we doing within the Weedon Group to improve our footprint?
So we're doing a lot. As I say, it's just part of everything we do. It's part of how we think. Firstly, we're very proud to be Fsc Accredited. So that is the Forestry Stewardship Council. We've been with them some time. It's something that's so important to us, and definitely something we like to shout out about and support as much as we can, and challenge our customers to support as well. We use earth inks, which is a water-based ink rather than a solvent ink. We can use that for some of our print processes. I think the great thing about earth inks, well, two great things. Firstly, it's just a great ink and it prints really well. And secondly, it's from a local supplier. So not only is it a cleaner ink, so a cleaner material, reducing our impact and reducing our footprint, it's also sourced locally. So it's not traveling halfway across the country to get to us. And I think the ink supplies 30 minutes away. So
just to interject there, Andrea, sorry, with it being a natural ink as well, there's, you know, less of a risk of contamination with food as well. So that's also
absolutely.
a bonus for it as well, you know.
So you know, triple threat.
Yes.
It's local, it's cleaner for the environment, and it's as you said, it's a kinder product to have around food and other stuff that we're packing into it. Absolutely. The other things that we've been looking at are pallets. So we use a hell of a lot of pallets in our company, and we have moved over to multi-trip pallets, meaning that we're not buying wooden pallets which then get lost in the system, damaged. So multi-trip pallets that can use over and over and over again. One of the other positives, I suppose there have been positives that have come out of COVID, and one of those is that as a team of people, we're traveling less. So Ed touched on that. He was doing his virtual conference at Asda, which I'm sure in times gone by he would have physically driven up to Leeds or somewhere. You know, drove, I know what it would be for you, 2 hours up the motorway, been at the conference, drove 2 hours back. we've reduced our mileage and our fuel by about 70%. So that's just on company costs of people that would have been normally traveling to their job. I've now found different ways. And whilst obviously there's in many ways nothing to replace meetings or face-to-face meetings in real life, it has made us think, do we need to make that journey? So I think on the other side, we will certainly think, do we need to make this journey? Is it the right thing to do? Is it the best use of resource? Or can it be done over Zoom? Can it be done virtually? We're leaning on our suppliers to support us. So in a push-pull effect, we're challenging them. Although I'm very lucky because a lot of our suppliers are so on board with this, they're coming to us with ideas. So we don't actually always have to ask for pushing them. Ed, weren't you working with one of our suppliers on something to do with fridges randomly?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that we're looking at based around displays where we know that there's obviously a challenge to try and move away from some of the plastic components that we use. So we are testing currently in design a molded pulp plastic clip replacement, and that's made from molded pulp paper. And one thing that did crop up is one of our suppliers, actually, we're not discounting plastics altogether because our supplier can now produce our traditional plastic clip that we use for shelves on displays as a recycled plastic, and that is from recycled fridges. So they've partnered with AO, who have I think they've spent around £10 million on a waste recycling site in the UK. So it's UK fridges being recycled in the UK, and then the plastics from that are being purchased from our supplier, who are then using it to mold into the plastic clips. So, fridges aren't going, they're not going, to the other side of the world to be recycled. Yeah. So again, that's a great news story because, as Andrea pointed out, it shows that our suppliers are there thinking about it. We can link in with them and try and use these products. Another one that we're looking at around display is the challenge of mop trays that go on the bottom of direct floor standing units, which are needed to stop, when retailer floors, shop floors are cleaned. So we're looking at that to not be plastic. So we're working with, people where we can put special coatings onto board to make it waterproof, and we're just trialing and testing a few things there. So we're always looking at doing stuff, and as Andrea said, working with our suppliers as best we can to challenge the bits of plastic and things that aren't fully within our control. We're just trying to, minimise our impact where we can.
Brilliant. And I think that's it. I mean, we do have and always have had a goal to be carbon neutral, and we continue to work towards that. So there's the bigger things like the FSC, like the inks that we use, but it's also small things I think can make it cumulatively can have a big impact towards that goal as well. So a couple of examples: we've moved to low impact LED lighting at all our sites. We changed the fleet of forklift trucks to ones with zero emissions over at our corrugated plant in Manchester. We've got separate waste streams in all our plants now, meaning that we can better track the amount of waste that we're using, and we can also recycle more of that waste. We've changed planning, the way that we plan transport to fully utilise, maximise palletisation, minimise waste space on our lorries. And we've also been working with our customers to see if there's ways that we can link in with their transport. So if they're passing us with backloads, we're traditionally we just be delivering anyway, why not utilise that empty space on their lorry that might be passing within a few miles of our plant anyway. So that not only helps us, but it helps our customers. We've looked at the way we palletise, etc., so we can help customers with their warehousing, help their production lines flow better, but with less impact again. So all these things, big and small, they have a huge impact, and help us be as clean as possible, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. Is there anything we can do to help customers with their packaging to reduce waste? Andrea, if I could give you that one to start with, please.
Yeah, so I guess if I pick up on display as my area of expertise, I suppose the first thing to say is that everything we make is 100% recyclable. So all of our corrugated material is 100% recyclable. So anything that we make can be recycled, used again, put back into the system. So I guess that's the first thing to say about cardboard. I don't want to paint it in the light of it's something bad. It's a great product. It comes from recycled material, can be recycled, so it's a great product. One of the big things I've been working on with quite a few customers that has been really successful and trying to roll out more is a modular system. So I guess if you think Lego, a modular range of displays that can be used for more than one SKU. So what that means is that you have a set number of components that can be reconfigured in different ways for different load ups. In terms of reducing waste, it means that there are less setups. Things can be produced in bulk if we need to. We can less setups on the machine, less time to do the machine. So a lot of examples of the modular system can really help reduce waste and simplify and increase speed to market. So it has, you know, an add-on effect as well. Looking at displays that can work harder. So one example would be maybe a display can be used for 2 promotions. So if we look at Halloween and Christmas that are quite close together in the promotional calendar, we do think there are ways that we can look at shrouds, reversible displays, options that mean that one display can be used in the retailer twice. Looking at reducing dead space on displays, we talk about right sizing and packaging, but in POS and promotion, it seems to be that we kind of lose that a little bit. So again, if we can get an extra 4 or 5 SKUs on the display, that means that piece of cardboard is working so much harder. Small things again, like reducing trim size. Silly as it sounds, if we can take 5mm off the trim over a run of 1,000 displays, you know, if you times that by the number of sheets that is, that's like quite a phenomenal saving on waste. The studio, I know, I've been doing a lot of work on the number of colours that we print as well.
Yeah.
So we would always challenge when we receive some artwork to see, does it need to be that many colours? So if we receive 6 or 7 colour artwork, we would always be thinking, does it actually need to be that number of colours, or can we be smart about how we create that and make it out of less colours? What does that mean for the end user? It means less runs through the machine, less waste on setup, less ink. Yeah. So again, less waste, less use of resource, and hopefully some commercial benefit for the customer as well. I think we just need to make sure that we're on the same wavelength as our customers on sustainability, that we're challenging them and they hopefully challenging us as well. You know, make sure you're asking those questions, make sure you're challenging your suppliers. Can we reduce? Can we increase the sustainability on this display?
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, have you got any thoughts on this as well?
Yeah, I think a really great place to start in terms of your packaging waste and trying to reduce it is, you know, look at the materials that you use. So whether it be in packaging or display, you know, does your packaging or displays need to be on white paper? You know, again, you know, or can it be a natural brown substrate? Because to make a paper white, it has to go through another process. So that's a process that material goes through, that paper goes through to make it white. You know, brown packaging and displays, my personal opinion, from a marketing point, I think they shout, I am environmentally friendly. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but every time I see a brown box over a white box, or a brown display in particular over a white display, you know, with nice branding on, I just think, personally, I love them. I just think it stands out, and I think there's that sustainability message behind it as well. Again, if you're using craft liners in your packaging, you know, really check with your provider as to, is it needed? The reason, you know, craft liners made from virgin paper, a recycled test liner is recycled paper. It's gone through that life cycle, you know, it's gone through part of the life cycle, it's been recycled. So that is going to very gradually, slowly reduce the, you know, your packaging waste. So ask your providers those questions. I mean, something that we're doing here at Weedon Group is we're trying to push as many displays that we think we can from EL to EB flute, from EB to EL flute. So we're trying to, you know, EL flute, it uses a little bit less paper in the same square meterage as EB. It prints just as nice. Structurally, it's not far off in the way of performance with EB. So where we think we can, we're moving displays to EL away from EB. That in itself, there's a slight win in material usage. I mean, within the group as well, we're now heavily looking at rationalising board grades, and we're taking our performance packaging offering to the next level. So it's going to save on wasting paper between board grade changes. If we're, as a business, if we're running 200, 300 board grades and we work out through performance packaging that we can actually only run 120 and still offer our customers great material and great service and great products, then we'd be mad not to, because we're reducing our own waste, which in turn, there's a benefit there for our customers. So all of these things really do start to build. And as Andrea touched on before, small things that we're doing within Weedon Group, our LED lighting, and all these small little wins within material choice can start to make a really big difference. I just think that's probably one of the easiest places, I think, to start when you're talking to your packaging and display providers, is just start thinking about the materials that you're using. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, what are we actually doing with packaging waste reduction as well, Ed? What are your
so there's a lot of things that we are doing, like through design team and our sales team engaging with our customers. So the first start point is I would say to anybody is make sure that your packaging, if we're talking boxes for shipping transit goods, RRP for on shelf, make sure it's the correct size for the product. Correctly sized packaging and point of sale is key to driving down the costs and lowering your carbon footprint. We've got an example that we've just put on where, a number of years back, we designed, the doll that you can see on screen. It was a best-selling line, manufactured in the Far East, shipped to the UK and Europe for sale. We were challenged with, looking at a whole heap of different products that this retailer purchased, and the small change that you can see on screen, you may have to move our heads if we are over on the right a little bit, but visually it looks very small. There's a slight win in the top to bottom, a little win in the left to right, a little win in the front to back. Now, the biggest difference that this made is when you look at it, you don't think it's much, but that change equated to, over the whole yearly volume of that production, we saved 25 tons of packaging waste. And that was a cradle to grave carbon footprint saving of, I think I've got it written here, 13.4 tons of CO2 saved.
But literally again, no impact on the saleability of the product, no impact on appeal.
Still focused on the branding, space for key information about the product. We actually made the product easier to get out as well, because those of us as parents know how difficult that is come a birthday or Christmas. And again, because this product shipped from the Far East to the UK and Europe, we estimated that I think it saved 28% on freight containers a year in that size reduction. Wow. And again, you can look at that and, that would have equated, if that saving was this year on the data that we have, that would have saved around 25.3 tons of CO2 over a year. So potentially that one change, looking at material and shipping, it's 38.7 tons of CO2 saved. And it's a small change. So I think that, anything that you're packing, whether it's 6 bottles of something in a standard O201 box, just look at, is it the right size? Can I get more on a pallet? Can I get more in a truck by making that change? I mean, the same is true of point of sale. If you have a small product that's high value and there's no need to get that much stock on a, say, a quarter pallet, 600, 400 mil footprint, could it be 400 by 400? If it's still stable, you've still got all of that space for branding. If you put a 400 by 400 pallet on a Euro pallet versus a 600, 400 display on a UK pallet, you'll actually get 50% more in a truck.
Wow.
So, and it's just things like this. Make sure that, you go to the experts, go to your providers and say, what can I do to get more on a pallet, to get more use out of this display?
Of course, Ed, with a smaller display as well, you're not actually reducing the impact in store, are you?
No, it's I mean, from a branding point, there's still plenty of space for branding. And again, with a lot of people shopping in convenience stores, rather than wanting to go to a big store and doing a big shop, people that are needing to just go out and get a few items, they're going into these convenience stores. Smaller units are more likely to get cited because it's a smaller footprint. It's
Yeah.
easier to work around for people shopping in a, you know, in a smaller store. So yeah, there's a lot of wins. I mean, sometimes your product load up, the size of it, the value of it, you are going to need to try and maximize the amount of product on a unit.
Yeah.
But if you're not, just explore that as an option. Just see what is possible. So yeah, those are a few things. Just thinking about the size of what your packaging or displays are, and starting to question that. Because if you do that with material, you'll start to get even bigger gains. And you know that the example on screen just shows you just what you can achieve with a small change.
Absolutely. Just to jump in there, I know we do have one more slide to go. We are running on half an hour now, so I hope you'll forgive us for running a little bit over. But Ed, if you want to take this one, what are we doing in our teams at the moment as well? What are you guys doing in design?
Yeah, so we are trying to work smartly and, you know, embrace the new ways of working that our customers are having to work to. So a good example, you know, consider how you approve files. We use an online approval tool now for all of our artworks. We've started to use it with a few customers on technical drawings. And it just means that a simple, small thing, but giving a PDF to one person, you know, or we're sending prints just to get approval, you know, that might have to go to multiple people, or people are printing it and then sharing it around the office if people are still in an office. And you're getting people viewing it. The online approval, simple tool. It's really quick. It improves the process, speeds it all up, and it's all online. It's all digital. So you know that you don't need to print stuff out to look at it and go and ask, you know, somebody in the brand team to look at it and somebody in the legal team, or it's just easier to share that information. Designer offering more of that as well in the way of virtual discussions on samples. So we've had some examples where, you know, we were probably looking at maybe sending out 8, 9, 10 samples, one of each, to different, you know, different people within our customer's business that are scattered out working remotely. You know, that's 10 lots of postage. It's 10 couriers, you know, 10 vehicles driving around delivering these things. So we've started to offer, you know, virtual sessions where myself or the design team or salesperson's talking through the physical box, saying, look, we've got this option, talking how that works, we've got this option, and showing people it live and talking through it, and it being not face to face, but as close as we can get at the moment. It gets us onto more of a, right, option 3 is the one that we prefer. Can we develop that more and just get samples out to these 2 people for approval, rather than let's send out lots of samples, do lots of work and send it out to lots of people, which obviously has a footprint effect in terms of carbon footprint. Technology as well, that's advanced quite a lot. We're now working with technology around our material analysis. So I2I now perform multiple tests to accurately calculate the right material for any new packaging, and better yet, evaluate if your existing cases and displays are in the right material. Because there is a tendency, we've brought that box for 10 years, it's always been that grey.
Yeah, it's always served as well.
Yeah, and therefore that's what it is. So we're doing a lot of work around that. I would say, in order to get your corrugate providers, display providers to think along these lines, you need to challenge your providers to rationalise any displays of packaging that you use. If you use 20 boxes to ship things, why is it 20 different size boxes? I'll come back to the point, don't make it too, you know, don't affect your transport costs and your pallet utilization by making those changes. You know, but again, a decent provider will work with you on that, and they'll say you don't want to change that and put it in a bigger box because you'll get less on a pallet. The main thing though is talk to your providers and give them detail about your business and how packaging flows through your business, because it's a personal bugbear of mine where, you know, from a design point, I want to know as much about our customer as possible, because the more I know and the more my teams know, the more added value we can make to that customer and to that particular inquiry. You know, if you just told it's 10,000 of this is the price point to hit, this is the design, there's not a lot to go at. You know, there's things that we can do around material and suggesting stuff, but the more we know, the more we can offer. So talk to your providers, make sure that they are pushing for as many different wins as possible. But in order for them to do that, they're going to need to understand you and your business and how packaging flows through your business, and what supply chains that you're using depending on the end use, be it in a retailer or if it's e-commerce. The more we know, the more effective we can be to help people. So yeah, I think just lean on your providers and creative agencies, make sure that they're thinking along these lines, and yeah, just try and help them, do their bit to save the planet.
Fantastic. No, that's absolutely brilliant. As I said earlier, we are running over slightly. We'll move on to our Q&A. I've noticed we have got quite a few questions actually, but we probably won't be able to get around to all of them. I'm really sorry. But as I said, if you like, we can email you the answers to your questions. If I start with one, Andrea, if I could give this one to you actually. Is there a cost to supplying FSC material versus other sources?
No.
Nice and easy.
There's no, so to you as a customer, there will be no added cost if we move to FSC.
Excellent, that's great. And this one to Ed actually. Ed touched on paper rationalisation. Will this affect performance?
No, in short, no, it shouldn't do. I mean, we're not going to lower a material in the way of performance unless we know that we've done testing and we know that it can, and therefore there's a commercial benefit to the customer, because it doesn't need to. It's that same old thing, we've been buying this box for 10 years, it's always been that great. If we spot an opportunity to lower the material in terms of performance and what it's made up from to get a reduced, helping people reduce their waste, then we'll always push that. But we won't take if something needs to perform at that, we're not just going to put it in a lower ball grade because it won't work.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, simple as that.
If we have one more, guys, you mentioned reducing artwork colours. Can this still be achieved within the retailer's guidelines? I don't know if that's Andrea or Ed who wants to take that one.
Either.
Go on, Andrea, I'll give it to you.
The answer is, it really depends. It depends what the event is. It depends how your artwork, how your pack shots are created. There's a lot of elements that we have to look at to reduce the colours. But I think my answer would be, send it over, let us have a look at it, and we'll do anything we can. Quite rightly, wherever that question's come from, the retailer does control the look and feel of the artwork in store, but that doesn't mean that we can't be smart about how we meet that.
Excellent. No, that's brilliant. Once again, I'm sorry, we have missed a couple on that, but we'll have to wrap up now because we're nearly a few minutes over. Sorry.
on a soapbox. Sorry.
There we go. I just want to say big thank you to Andrea and Ed for joining us today and being our panelists. I think it's been really interesting, really informative as well. So that's fantastic. And thank you to you for joining us as well. We just scratched the surface of such a huge subject. So if there's anything you want us to discuss further, if you've got any specific questions to your requirements, just drop us an email, give us a call. We will be sending out an annotated version of this presentation as well, and we will be hosting another webinar over the next few weeks. So we'll keep you updated with that, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.